Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace, blessings, mercy of Allah be upon all of those who seek it. The subject of lying came to my mind as a subject to be discussed. Perhaps I should focus more on the aspect of truthfulness. It has a different sound, a different feel to it, right? When we say we're going to talk about lying versus talk about truthfulness, because one is perceived and resonates as negative and the other one positive. But lying is it's something that it has permeated the world. And sadly, it's become the norm on many levels. People are afraid to speak the truth. People are hindered from seeking the truth. Lying helps an individual get out of situations of discomfort. Lying helps an individual to do things that they know they really shouldn't be doing, but I want to do it anyway. A lot of the mainstream movies or films or series, the plot is moved forward because of lying and all types of other vices. I want you to think, what is the ramification of that? What is the ramification of watching something or watching and being exposed constantly to different aspects of or different ways to lie? And in some way, does that teach people that it's okay, that it's all right? I think this is extremely important when I think of my background in studying Islamic studies. And some people are not aware, but the foundations of Quran, or the foundations of Islam, are in the Quran, which is considered to be the final revelation, divine revelation sent down to earth, that confirms all and reaffirms all of the previous revelations. So it's nothing new in the sense of the message. The belief is that the message is exactly the same as that which was given to the thousands of other prophets before, some whose names we know and some whose names we do not. And the Sunnah has been preserved through Hadith, and Hadith are the narrations of Prophet Muhammad, the things he said, the things that he did, the things he approved of. And there's a science that has been developed and was developed to ensure and to verify that the Hadith was in fact something that Prophet Muhammad really did say and do, and it had to be authentic. It was very important that the example of the Prophet Muhammad was preserved, and the reason for that is connected to the Islamic perspective that Quran, being the last revelation sent to mankind, would need the example of the one who lived it the best, who lived it at the highest level. That example would need to be preserved. So in other words, Prophet Muhammad received the revelation. He implemented it at the highest level, in the best way. He was, as some say, the Quran walking. And so we needed his example. And if we look again, from the Islamic perspective, the concept and the idea is that every single book came with a prophet, although not every prophet came with a book. So this shows the importance for people to see something tangible, to see a life, a human life, that is implementing these laws, that is living by these virtues, that is following guidance. If you have theory without practice, it doesn't mean too much. You can have a lot of concepts that theoretically sound lofty and high and wonderful, but let's look at them in implementation. Even let's look at so-called democracy and look at our systems, this idea of majority rules. I mean, yeah, minority has rights, but the majority rules. But the majority are being manipulated. The majority are being indoctrinated with concepts that are bringing them and keeping them in a low state of mind, states of fear, states of lack. So it doesn't really make sense. And we see the end result of it, and we see the manipulations of it, and we see that truly this whole idea of, voting for this party, voting for that party, on issues that seem so grand to us, but in the final analysis and in the bigger picture, they really don't matter, because both parties, no matter how much we may think we like them or relate to them, they're all supporting the true powers that be in the issues that truly matter to those powers that be. So while some had thought that the concept of democracy was lofty and high, in practice it really was not. Now, going back to Hadith, there was this entire science that was developed. Mustalah is the name, Mustalah. But the name right now is not important. It's the concept, or one of the concepts that I want to focus on. And that is, you have a narration. You have, let's say, even in this situation, someone sits with me and they say, Hasna said. And then they tell someone else, maybe my mother says, Hasna said that Central Portugal is so beautiful. So my mother, Saida, says that Hasna says that Central Portugal is so beautiful. And she tells that to, let's say, my Aunt Shahida. She talks to my Aunt Shahida. And she tells Aunt Shahida, Hasna said that Central Portugal is so beautiful. And then Aunt Shahida maybe has a conversation with, let's say, her son, Zaid. And Zaid says, and Aunt Shahida says to Zaid, Hasna said, or rather Saida said, that Hasna said that Portugal is so beautiful, and so on. So now we have a chain. We have a chain of people. Now, what is there to verify? What is there to actually say that I really said that? So some centuries after, I have to get the dates. Sometimes I'm not very good with dates, but let's say a couple 100 years or so after the Prophet Muhammad, there were people who wanted to actually collect books of hadith. People were always memorizing the hadith from the time of the life of Prophet Muhammad, and they were passing them down, but they weren't necessarily being collected into books. And so those who were collecting them wanted to make sure, especially the most well-known ones, wanted to make sure that they developed a system that would enable them to know for sure that this hadith was authentic. And so some of the requirements that were considered to be the most strict, like those from Bukhari, were that first of all, the person had to be a Muslim. Okay, that makes sense. Why? Because if it's someone who's not a Muslim, they might have an ulterior motive and some agenda, which is to lie on Prophet Muhammad, because they don't believe in him. So why would they care to uphold this high standard? The second is that they had to reach a level of maturity. This was also very important because of the level of awareness just the level of how would I say? Just basically mental maturity. The third is that they should be sane, of course, not have any mental issues or problems. Their intellect is sound, it's together. And the other is that they should not be a liar. They should not be someone who's known to lie. Another one was that it should be confirmed that those people truly did, in that time, they didn't have phones and internet and texting and all of this, but it had to be confirmed that those two people met with each other, that they, of course, lived in the same time and they met with each other. So you had all of these various requirements, and this was to ensure the level of authenticity for the narration. The individual also had to be known, so you cannot say that Zayd said, that Aunt Shahida said, that Saida said, that Hasna said that Central Portugal is beautiful. And we don't know who these people are, because we need to be able to look into their character before we accept anything that they say. That is very important. And now this may not be of interest to everyone. Some things that I put out, maybe everyone can relate to. And there may be some things that I talk about that not everyone resonates with, and that's fine. But for anyone who's interested in knowing something about what most Muslims believe in, or the foundations upon which their faith is built, keep listening. Because the hadith is a very important subject. And if you know about this, then you might know more than even some Muslims. Who knows? Because nowadays, not every Muslim takes it upon themselves to study even something as basic as what I'm talking about now. So the foundation of taking knowledge, of where we get our knowledge from, is rooted in truthfulness. I want you to think about that. The conditions of even accepting a narration that someone said, Prophet Muhammad said, we have to be able to know the people in that chain of narration, or else it's considered weak and rejected on a certain level, unless we can find a supportive one that's not. And in a nutshell, this is showing the importance of all the characteristics, but specifically we're talking about honesty. One hadith scholar traveled. He already had Bukhari, I believe it was. Yes, Bukhari. He had traveled for a long journey to collect a hadith from a man that was supposed to be more of a supportive hadith. It wasn't necessarily new, but I believe it was with a different chain of narrators. And long story short, he wants to collect a hadith. He travels far, and there's a man who he's going to collect this hadith from, this narration from, and he sees the man with his animal. And this animal is not coming to him. And so he puts he puts his hand out, this man who has this animal, puts his hand out and pretends that he has food in his hand so that the animal will come to him. Bukhari turned around and left. He didn't even collect the hadith from him. And this was because to him this was a sign of being dishonest. It didn't matter that he was being dishonest to the animal. That was his animal that needed to come along. Didn't matter. To him, that was a sign of dishonesty. And it didn't make him comfortable to accept that narration from that person. If we also look at who Prophet Muhammad was, there's no man in history whose life was documented on the level of his. And he was known to be the most trustworthy. That was actually a name, a nickname, that before he said revelation came to him, before he claimed revelation came to him, people were calling him Al-Amin. Al-Amin. I mean, literal. Can you imagine people just calling you, hey, trustworthy one? How you doing, trustworthy one? How you doing? I was talking to trustworthy one the other day. I mean, seriously, like, they called him the trustworthy one, the one who you can trust. And there's so many examples of this that I can make a different video about this in the future, or do some writing on it in my blog that I'm developing. But yeah, so honesty, uprightness, trustworthiness, these are very important, crucial characteristics to cultivate within ourselves. When you lie, it doesn't feel good. But when you live your life in a way where you can always be honest and upright and trustworthy to others and trustworthy to not only to others around you, but that you can trust yourself. You know that you're someone who's worthy of being trusted. That feels sound, that feels whole, that feels right. And the problem is, again, we are surrounded by lies all of the time, and our reality is often shaped by lies. And the more I travel and talk to other people and look at, ask them about their news and their perceptions on certain events, many people don't realize that our news, even though it's sometimes presented as not being biased, it's government funded. A lot of what is in the news, especially when it has to do with other countries or potential wars or, in the past has been funded by the government, and they're lying to us. It's lie after lie after lie, deception after deception, dishonesty after dishonesty, theft after theft, misappropriation of funds after misappropriation of funds. And this carries over, because when our leaders feel comfortable to act in this way, it's no wonder that the masses are as they are. Or maybe it's the flip side, that it's no wonder that when the masses are as they are, that we have leaders that are like ourselves. We want to keep pointing fingers. We want to point fingers at individuals because they're up on a stage or because they've been selected, if not elected, and they're in the spotlight. But honestly, if we were to look and really ponder the core driving factor of what that individual says and does, and then look at ourselves, we would actually see that we're not that much more different. We're not that different. Some of us lie in our regular lives. So why shouldn't a ruler, leader, president, governor, king lie He just has more power, and so his lies have more reach. But he lies, and we lie. Or we did lie. Because hopefully we do not continue in that way. A person mismanages their money or is selfish with their funds or their wealth. Some of us are like that. And then some rulers are like that too. We only look to help our friends, our immediate friends or family, maybe not even them. And we don't look to those who are in maybe just a few neighborhoods over that could use some help, that could use some kindness. We don't check out and see, oh, what programs are there that I could volunteer in this for a little bit. Give one day out of my, or 2 days out of my month to help someone else. Okay, so no wonder our leaders also don't have that consideration. We have sexual desires, and there are people who, every day looking at pornography, trying to see, what women they can get at the club on the weekends, just trying to do what they can do to get some sex or whatever. Talking to women in a certain way, viewing women in a certain way, degrading them, and then, shock horror, when we have a leader or someone who's in a prominent position that does the same. At the end of the day, you may look at, or someone may be looking at porn, which honestly is degrading to women. Whether they've chosen it or not, it degrades a woman. She becomes just this, basically a living being, something alive to masturbate with. No type of connection. No type of connection whatsoever. Just this living thing. So this degradation of women carries over, and we see others degrading women. And the list goes on. The list goes on. So the first person that we need to be honest with and trustworthy towards is ourselves. And again, silence is the best teacher for that. Silence gives us an opportunity to go within and say, am I someone to trust? Am I someone to trust myself? Do I trust the choices I've made in the past? Do I trust that I am a person who's upright and who's capable and who can be depended on? Can I depend on myself? Trustworthiness and honesty with the self as to whether or not we are truly content, as to whether or not I am truly content. Or am I just constantly finding entertainment after entertainment after entertainment to distract myself so that I don't have to deal with the deeper issues? So I get up and I get ready and I rush to work, and I'm at work, and while I'm at work I'm communicating or listening to music or watching something in between what I'm doing, and then go to lunch, and that's obviously food. What am I going to eat? Oh, okay, I found something to eat. Now I'm eating. Then I go back to work, and then after work I'm doing this, or I'm going here, or I'm picking up this one, or I go to, depending on what some people do, go to a bar, or find hang out with my partner and argue with my partner, or enjoy time with my partner, or whatever with my partner. Or if I don't have a partner, maybe I just have lots of different girlfriends, or maybe I'll watch a movie, or maybe I'll watch Netflix, or maybe this, and then maybe I'll just do that until I go to sleep, and then when I go to sleep, and then I wake up, and then I just do it all over again. I don't really see much time for people to go within. So my hope is that every video that I make that is simply opens a perspective, and it helps soften some hearts, first of all mine, to hold myself to a higher accountability, because I need that in my life. I need to be held to a higher accountability, but I have to do it for myself. And I use the guidance that I've been blessed to be exposed to do that. And again, none of us are expected, even by Allah, even by the Creator. We're not expected to be perfect. No, He doesn't expect us to be perfect, which is amazing. He doesn't. He just expects us to make an effort, to do our best. And when we make a step towards Allah, He comes even closer towards us. When we go to Him walking, He comes to us at speed. And this means that He multiplies our endeavor. He multiplies our efforts, because He wants us to be close to Him. He wants us to reap the benefits of being close. And one of the qualities that He loves is honesty, is trustworthiness. And one of the qualities that He does not like is dishonesty and lying. So let us look into our lives and say, is this something that I could work on? Is this something, an area that I can improve in? Is this something that I could do a little better in? Or a lot better in? And ask Allah to help you. Oh, Allah, help me. Lying has been a part of my life. Make it easy for me to be an honest person, a trustworthy person, to surround myself with others who are honest and upright and trustworthy. And so I'm going to wrap this up. Just some reflections on the subject of honesty, trustworthiness, and dishonesty. Peace and blessings to everyone, to all of you. Peace, blessings, and guidance. Life is so good. Life is absolutely beautiful. And I feel so blessed. Assalamu alaikum.